Welcome to Mission Ready, a professional development series built to strengthen how organizations lead, communicate, and perform. Each session translates real-world leadership lessons into practical tools any team can use, whether you're driving strategy, managing people, or building your career. The focus is simple: clarity, discipline, and consistent execution. This isn't about where you come from. It's about equipping you to operate with confidence in fast-moving environments. Whatever your role, this is your space to refine your craft and get mission ready. In episode 3, we explored how to accelerate new hire performance in the first 90 days. Today, we focus on what happens next, how leaders sustain performance, build engagement, and help people evolve into long-term contributors who bring real value to the organization. These principles apply to any workplace and any leader working to build healthy, high-performing teams. Once onboarding ends, employees don't automatically shift into high performance. Research from Harvard Business Review shows that long-term engagement has a stronger impact on productivity, creativity, and retention than anything that happens in the early weeks. When leaders continue to invest in clarity, support, and development beyond the first 90 days, employees become more adaptable, confident, and capable of taking ownership. Empowerment is not a motivational concept. It's a measurable driver of long-term performance. Research shows that once the onboarding window closes, most employees enter a plateau phase, not because they lack talent, but because the systems and support that boosted them early on naturally taper off. Gallup research confirms that engagement often dips after the first few months unless leaders remain intentional about development. This stage is a turning point. Without guidance, performance stabilizes at a lower level. With guidance, employees re-enter a growth curve and begin creating long-term value for the organization. Leadership isn't just about getting people started, it's about ensuring they continue to evolve long after day 90. After the first 90 days, employees move beyond learning the basics. This phase is where their deeper needs come into focus. They need evolving clarity as responsibilities grow, not just the initial orientation. They need development, real coaching, not just direction. And they need connection, the sense that they belong here and their voice matters. Finally, they need opportunity, the chance to take on meaningful tasks, contribute at a higher level, and feel trusted. When leaders meet these needs, employees shift from simply doing their job to actively building capability and value within the organization. Clarity is one of the strongest drivers of long-term performance. Even highly capable employees struggle when expectations drift or become inconsistent. As responsibilities expand, clarity doesn't stay fixed, it must evolve. Leaders who regularly revisit expectations remove uncertainty and help employees work with more confidence, speed, and precision. Checking for clarity quarterly is one of the most effective habits a leader can build because it aligns priorities, reduces friction, and creates the conditions for sustained high performance. Employees grow when their capabilities grow. Long-term performance isn't about one-time training. It comes from steady reinforcement, real-time coaching, and learning that adapts to the demands of the role. When leaders cultivate capability over time, employees become more confident, more adaptable, and far better equipped to take initiative. Capability is not fixed, it's a moving target, and the organizations that invest in continuous development outperform those that treat learning as a single event. Connection is one of the most powerful drivers of long-term performance. When people feel they belong, they show up differently, with more confidence, more collaboration, and more willingness to contribute. Trust accelerates communication, reduces friction, and helps teams work through challenges faster. Connection isn't about personality or being outgoing. It's built through consistency. Leaders who show up, follow through, and create an environment where people feel respected and safe to speak honestly. When trust and belonging are present, engagement rises and teams become far more resilient. Opportunity is one of the strongest motivators for long-term engagement. When people are trusted with meaningful challenges, their confidence grows, their skills expand, and their value to the team increases. HBR research shows that stretch assignments create higher levels of engagement and accelerate development more than routine work ever could. These opportunities signal trust. They tell employees that leadership sees potential in them. When leaders offer the right level of challenge, people rise to it, and their growth becomes a powerful asset for the organization. Empowerment isn't a single action, it's a cycle. It begins with clarity. Employees need to know what matters. Then comes support, where leaders help remove obstacles and provide guidance. With clarity and support in place, autonomy becomes productive rather than risky. People begin to make decisions, contribute ideas, and take initiative. And as autonomy grows, accountability becomes natural, not imposed, but embraced. When this loop is consistent, capability rises. Employees become more confident, more capable, and more invested in the organization's success. Empowerment is not hands-off leadership. It's structured leadership that builds independence over time. Even strong teams can lose momentum when empowerment breaks down. This usually happens in predictable ways. When direction becomes unclear, people hesitate. When leaders micromanage, initiative disappears. And when feedback is inconsistent or delayed, small issues turn into bigger ones. Trust and psychological safety are the final piece. Without them, employees hold back, not because they lack ability, but because the environment isn't supporting honest dialogue or confident decision-making. Recognizing these breakdowns early allows leaders to correct course and restore the conditions that support growth. Sustained engagement doesn't come from intensity, it comes from consistency. Leaders who communicate clearly and regularly create a sense of stability that employees can rely on. Development-focused check-ins help people grow and keep their goals aligned with the organization's direction. Purposeful delegation signals trust and responsibility, allowing employees to contribute at a higher level. Recognition reinforces progress and strengthens commitment. And finally, availability matters. Leaders don't have to be everywhere, but they do need to be present enough that people feel supported rather than on their own. These behaviors don't require dramatic effort. They're small, steady actions that compound into long-term engagement and performance. Psychological safety is one of the most important drivers of long-term performance. When employees feel safe to speak up, share concerns, or offer new ideas without fear of embarrassment or repercussion, the entire team benefits. Honest dialogue speeds up problem solving, strengthens collaboration, and creates a culture where innovation becomes natural. Safety isn't about being comfortable all the time. It's about knowing that the environment supports respectful conversation, direct feedback, and shared ownership of outcomes. When leaders create psychological safety, employees take initiative, experiment more, and contribute at a higher level. These behaviors don't require dramatic effort. They're small, steady actions that compound into long-term engagement and performance. Even experienced leaders fall into patterns that unintentionally limit long-term performance. Micromanagement can suppress initiative, but stepping too far back can leave employees without the support or direction they need. Another common mistake is letting expectations sit unchanged. Roles evolve, and clarity must evolve with them. Recognition is another critical area. When progress goes unacknowledged, motivation drops. And finally, inconsistent feedback can create confusion instead of growth. These mistakes are common because they're subtle, but when leaders spot them early, they can course correct and maintain a healthy environment where employees continue to develop and perform at their best. These behaviors don't require dramatic effort. They're small, steady actions that compound into long-term engagement and performance. Empowerment isn't about stepping away. It's about creating room for someone to step forward. The strongest leaders provide clarity, resources, and trust, then intentionally shift from directing to enabling. This transition unlocks ownership, confidence, and creative problem solving. When people feel supported but not controlled, their work becomes more purposeful and their performance becomes more consistent. In my experience, the leaders who cultivate empowerment early become the ones with teams who can operate independently, adapt under pressure, and grow into leaders themselves. Once employees feel supported and empowered, the next step is sustaining that momentum. Growth becomes durable when leaders reinforce the right habits, not through pressure, but through rhythm. Research shows that consistent check-ins, clarity around expectations, and timely recognition strengthen an employee's sense of mastery and direction. When people understand the why behind their work and receive regular feedback, they remain engaged well beyond the onboarding window. In my experience, sustainable performance comes from leaders who stay connected, remove friction quickly, and celebrate progress without waiting for perfection. This balance keeps teams aligned and confident even as challenges evolve. Long-term performance is rarely the result of one big moment. It's a product of steady, intentional leadership over time. When new employees feel supported, trusted, and empowered early, they enter the organization with a foundation strong enough to carry them through new challenges. HBR research consistently shows that people who experience autonomy, clarity, and psychological safety in their first months become more resilient, more collaborative, and more likely to grow into leadership roles themselves. And from my own experience, when leaders create an environment where people can take initiative without fear, the entire team becomes more adaptive and capable. Empowerment doesn't end after onboarding. It's the beginning of a long-term investment in your people and the culture you're building. Thanks for spending this time with me today. I'm Shawn Havens, and this has been Mission Ready. I appreciate you showing up, not just for the episode, but for your people. See you next time.